I was in yeshiva, for almost like about 2.5 years, because then I got sent to Melbourne, and it was a life-changing thing. I mean, I came from South Africa. I grew up in a Hasidic home, and around there, but I never was in that environment, and just first of all, his knowledge used to amaze all of us, and his lessons were very deep. I would probably say that I only appreciated them later, properly.
You are listening to the JP Show,
where we discuss the issues you care about from a Jewish perspective.
I am Rabbi G.
And I am Rabbi Levi.
And we hope you enjoy this episode.
Welcome, everyone, to another JP Show. I'm here together with Rabbi Levi. How are you doing?
We're good. Pumping away.
Pumping away, very good. The year is winding down, but at BINA, we're always winding up. Is that right?
That's right, and big plans for next year.
Big plans for the summer, big plans for next year.
That's right.
Yes, it's good. I think we're both woken up now. It took us about 2 weeks after the Chagim, the festivals, to sort of like surface.
That's right.
We were a bit like walking around like zombies for a while, but we're back and fully there.
Absolutely.
So, what are we going to talk about today?
So I thought we would talk about something actually a little bit more personal to me and to you, but I think it is relevant to everyone. I think we wouldn't just talk about something that's just personal, otherwise why would anybody be interested in that? But I think it's we can learn some great things. So this week is my grandfather's Yarzteit. That's my mother's father, so your father-in-law. We have spoken about him in the past. I don't think we've spoken about him on a JP show. He was a very great man. His name was Rabbi Elimelech Zweibel.
Correct.
He lived in Morristown, New Jersey. He was mashpia, which means he taught Hasidus and mentored Bachrim in a yeshiva in Morristown. And he was a very great man. And he passed away 8 years ago. I always know that because my son, as we say in Yiddish, Yarn, was born literally a few weeks after he passed away. And he's named after him. My son's name is Elimelech.
It was the first name. That's very beautiful.
Known as Melech.
I should just mention, you said he was a mashpia. He was a mentor in a yeshiva. He was a great Torah scholar, and he taught Hasid, but he was also my mentor. I learned in that yeshiva.
That's right.
Which is a twist in the unique relationship. He wasn't just my father-in-law, which I respected and loved dearly, and had a great impact on my life as a father-in-law, but actually he was first, before my father-in-law, he was my teacher. I knew him before I knew your mother. Before my wife, Dina. So he was my mentor in yeshiva. I studied with him. I heard from bringings from him, and had a connection with him before I became his son-in-law. I was kind of surprised that even though I knew him, he still took me as his son-in-law, but that's okay. It's another story. So we had a very unique relationship, and you had a very, even though we always lived in Sydney since shortly after we got married, but we visited, and you had quite a connection with him as well.
Yeah, I did, and it's quite, I think most people have a special relationship with their grandparents, but he was definitely a great man. He wouldn't consider himself one. He was incredibly humble, one of his great traits, but
and he hated when people spoke about him, so I'm not sure if he's happy with this, but nevertheless, there are lessons to be learned, so we need to do it.
And he was definitely one of these people that you would say that he was a unique person in his generation. Definitely very unique. So why don't you talk about a little bit about your relationship to him before you got married, and what it was like to be with him in yeshiva. I mean, just to describe that, he was, not just an average Torah scholar. We're talking about someone on a very high league.
Yes, I think all talk about my relationship with him, but also just to understand his greatness. His greatness also was in his tremendous combination of things. So he was a very, very big Torah scholar, and it didn't just come, he had a very good head, obviously, but it wasn't just that. He was someone that actually learned constantly. He never wasted a moment. He was always studying, always learning. His life was Torah study. When he wasn't teaching, he was learning. That's basically what it is. Obviously, he was a family person, and he did all the things one does as a family, but including, by the way, Mommy always tells me that even used to help around. He had certain jobs around the house that he would do. Not a great many, but
bare minimum. We do have to give credit to my grandmother, who is still alive, although not very well, but she's still alive, and she did allow him to do that. She did.
Yeah, so she was very insistent that he should have that time and space to be able to really grow in his learning.
Yeah.
And she did. She was also a very, very capable woman and a very handy person, so that all helps.
Yeah, she built the sukkah in the house. Let's put it this way.
Exactly. He would talk about building the sukkah, and she would actually build it. But that's the family jokes. That's the famous part. But that is true. That is 100% true. So he did that, and he was always learning. He was just never wasted a moment, and so on. But he's also a very, very clever person, wise person, not just knowledgeable, but very wise to seek counsel from and to really guide people. It was amazing. And, sometimes I think, he was a very Hasidic Jew, and to him, keeping mitzvot and Torah learning and godliness and spirituality was, of course, prime importance. But he also was a very compassionate person. He actually had tremendous character, a tremendously good character. In a teaching position in yeshiva, there are boys sometimes that don't do what they should do. There are boys that are naughty, even older boys. He never embarrassed someone. Never embarrassed someone. He was always very, very, very particular. Always very, very understanding. In fact, can I just tell a quick story?
Sure.
And I'll come back to my relationship with him. This actually has to do with my brother. He won't mind me telling the story because he's told it himself. But my brother learned in the yeshiva after me a few years later, and he was very into his music, and he is a musician, a great musician, and he didn't always, come on time to yeshiva. And one of the parts of the yeshiva that he was in, my father-in-law, Zaidi was that he was in the morning when people come learn Chassidut. First thing in the morning, the first order of the day was to study Hasidic philosophy, which was then he was in the yeshiva. Then he would answer questions, and he called over my brother once and said to him, I haven't seen you come late. Like, what's the story? You're not keeping the order, kind of thing. That's. He said, listen, I'll be honest with you. My brother's a very honest guy. So he said to him, look, I play music at night, and I love music, and I play music, and just sometimes it goes very late, and then I just oversleep. Just bearing in mind when I talk about morning Chassidut, it's 7:30 a.m. That's when it started, right?
Right.
So instead of doing what one would normally do in that case, sort of say, no, but you got to get up on time, you're here, and it's part of your responsibility and part of the rules. He started becoming interested in his music, and he said to him, and my brother never took him up on it, but he never forgot it. He said to my brother, one of my daughters is actually studying music, and we have a teacher that comes once a week. Maybe I can arrange. Maybe you can come also, and you can have another lesson, or whatever the case is. And it just had such an impact. Just a very, very small example of.
And I think just so people listening should appreciate the story. A yeshiva is normally a place where people sort of need to fit into a box. It's like, you get up in the morning, you learn the whole day, and you go to sleep. It's not like, there's extracurricular activities in most yeshivas. But nevertheless, I guess he was able to see what people needed. If someone needed to be a little bit out of the box, they can be a little out of the box. And I think it's very impressive to be able to.
And I know lots of people who actually weren't that academic and weren't didn't excel in the academics of the yeshiva, and he really took an interest in them, and he kind of gave them time, and he never wasted time, but he gave them time because it was important, saying that kind of thing. So back to my relationship with him. So I was in yeshiva, for almost like about 2.5 years, because then I got sent to Melbourne, and it was a life-changing thing. I came from South Africa. I grew up in a Hasidic home, and around there, but I never was in that environment, and just first of all, his knowledge used to amaze all of us, and his lessons were very deep. I would probably say that I only appreciated them later, properly, but was really life-changing in terms of modeling us and shaping us with his farbrengens. When he would once in a while get together, all of us would sit around, say a little bit of l'chaim, and he would say l'chaim. Sometimes he was a bit reserved, and he would say a few l'chaims, and he would open up. And just the stuff that would come out was just amazing. The stories, the guidance, the openness, all Torah based and all Jewish stuff, and all really, deep stuff and content based and things. But it was just amazing, and really, really gave us a very, very good grounding, good foundation, and just yeah, and those were the 2.5 years. And then when I came back, then I went to Australia. When I came back, someone came over to me and said, are you ready to get married? I have an idea for you. And he told me who it was. And I said, actually, I'm not ready. I was going to study then in 770. Okay, so he gave me like another 7 months. And he came over to me again. So I said, okay, well, and he spoke to me about how amazing the shidduch is and how amazing, which is all true, I discovered later, how amazing this girl is and so on and so forth. And you really have to give it a try. So I spoke to my parents and anyway, the rest is history. But I actually gained from him, not only then, I gained from him tremendously later, because when later I got a much closer glimpse of him in real life, not just in a yeshiva environment. His calmness, his wiseness, his ability to navigate things. And I would ask him, until he passed away, I would ask him counsel a lot of times when I needed something and I wasn't sure and I needed some guidance. I would consult with him, not just as a father-in-law, but as someone who's wise.
Right. I think one of his biggest traits was his humility. He was very, but not in a like I need to be humble type of thing. Like it wasn't like it was just sort of natural. A couple of things come to mind. Like he was, just to appreciate what type of Torah scholar. I mean, he was a person who, if you would quote a thing from the Talmud, he would know exactly where it is. Right, one of these very unique people who we call our Baki B'Shas, right? Which means that you're sort of well-versed in the entire, and we're talking about the Talmud, for those who don't know, is extremely complex, huge volumes, pages and pages and pages. But if you were to ask him like a question about something, he wouldn't tell you, yeah, look over there and find it. He would say, I think maybe if you check up that place, it's like around there, and you would check it up and it's exactly there, right? But it was just the way he said it was like it was very humble. And I guess also he was, although he wasn't really in this world in the sense, like he didn't really have much of a, he didn't experience anything else besides for learning. I mean, that was his thing. Learning, praying, bringing, that was his world. But as a grandfather, he was a very loving. I remember once I came to his house, he fried me an egg, like sort of a very mundane, which wasn't really like his type of thing at all. But like he used to give me money every time I saw him. Like he was very.
He loved his grandchildren, never missed a birthday.
Yeah.
It was always like very, 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 very loving. Always gave them little things. He wasn't a man of tremendous means, but he was always gave them something. Always noticed them. Always was interested in them. I know when, I mean, he was still at your wedding, but when our children, while he was still alive, were sort of in marriage, in the marriage parsha, as we call, when they were going out and dating, and like that. He would be calling all the time, finding what's happening, what's doing, what's the progress. Very, very, very interested. Just going back to his humility, by the way, and I think this is what humility means. People often mix up what humility means. He was a strong person. He could stand up and be very strong, and and he had a tremendous I don't know what the word is. You call it a shtel in Yiddish, like an amazing presence. An amazing presence. Like when he walked in the room, everyone was like, and he was the authority. And yet he just a lot of it came from his influence of really not just learning Hasidut philosophy, but really living it.
Yeah.
And he used to say that one of the most foundations is they're just not about us. It's not about us. It's about something higher. And he couldn't be, I never ever heard him talk about himself. Never heard him talking about himself. Like, about his own greatness or his own, he would never compliment himself, nothing. Just it wasn't about him.
Yeah.
Which was amazing. But tell us about your experience with him as a grandchild. Like,
so I said, I mean, he was a very loving grandfather. Besides that, I mean, I never actually learned in his yeshiva on a permanent basis. I went to other yeshivas, but I did spend a few summers, American summers, with him, learning with him. He definitely gave me a lot of guidance in that. I think more than anything, again, obviously, every conversation with him was a mini farbrengen. There was no such thing as discussing the weather or politics, or it wasn't like, I mean, he was very clued in, like he knew what he wanted to know, but like it was just very by the way, like it wasn't, every conversation with him was about something spiritual, about something learning, what am I learning, what is he learning?
So a story, an insight, everything. Else talk.
No, for sure. There's no, but more than anything, and I think this is important for everyone, was his example. Like there's just no, like there was no faking it. It was just him being him was a tremendous, tremendous addition to my life. Just being around such a person that didn't waste a minute. Like literally, you see someone who was never just, you never saw him like sitting on the couch, like just spacing. No such thing. It was just always with a book, always being productive, always learning, teaching, guiding. It's just unbelievable. It's actually, and in a very also, I think another thing about him was he was a very organized person, very punctual, extreme. Like you have some people that like never waste time, like they're up a whole night. Like that wasn't him at all. Actually, he went to sleep exactly the same time every night, unless there was something happening. But woke up exactly the same time every morning. You know, you said he never used to speak about himself. The only thing I
only
did
one
hear
time.
about himself
I know
was
what
that he
you're going to
said
say.
he never needed an alarm clock. He woke up every morning the exact same time without an alarm clock, which is unbelievable, right?
The only time when he said that, by the way, was at a Farbrengen, and he was telling the boys that why people come late and why they're sleeping in. So he just made a comment, off the cuff comment, like you get up when you have to get up. He said, I don't even use an alarm clock. Like
Yeah.
that was the only time I heard him say something about himself.
Exactly, and like he was very into that also. He was very against being what we call in Yiddish wild, like wild, like without any program, without any schedule. He was very into having a schedule, being very in order, and he felt you can accomplish more by doing that. You know, when you need to know how long you have to sleep, and you should sleep that amount. You shouldn't, you know, when you're tired, you can't do anything. And he was,
Also an amazing. I mean, yeah, it was an amazing time manager. Like he always got things done when they needed to get done. Just get them done.
yeah,
And like when a new book would come out, like a new book of Hasidic philosophy or something, which they would publish, and he would get it, and it was always on his table, and he would make a thing like he'd learn, let's say, 6 pages of it every day or something like that until he finished the book. It was like very, very, very organized.
yeah. And I think perhaps a lesson for everyone, for us, for everyone listening, I'll just sort of share like a personal recollection. I think when we're around the next generation, when the next generation is looking at us, I mean, I'm not old, I'm only 33, but people like you that are a little older than me or even older than that, but it doesn't make a difference how much older you are. The point is you're older, and people, you know, we have children, we have grandchildren. I think more important to what you tell them is the type of person that you are, and that you're, you know, by my bar mitzvah, I had an unbelievable merit that I had all my grandparents there, your parents and mommy's parents. I mean, and we'll do another JP about your father, who was also a very special person, but a totally different type of person, very special, a different way. But just being surrounded by such spiritual, special people. I remember like we had this massive Friday night meal by my bar mitzvah, and they were talking, and my two grandfathers were bringing together, and then Shabbos day. I can maybe repeat one thing that I remember. I mean, I was 13. I barely understood anything. You know, it was just beyond me what they were talking about. But just the experience, just being around people. You know, when we think about this brings us down a little bit, right? Like when we have a Shabbos table, and our children are sitting by the Shabbos table, and we have a choice. We can talk about nonsense. We can talk bad about other people. We can, you know, talk.
And by the way, I think that's such an important point. It doesn't have to be, you don't have to be at the same level of right. Academics or knowledge or observance even.
Yeah.
It's just about in your own, each one in their own way, trying to make it as meaningful as possible. Like
yeah, and I think people and kids, whether they understand what you're saying or not, they sense that. They sense, is this a conversation about meaning, about purpose, about something spiritual or something valuable, or is just people sitting around just wasting their life, right? It's sort of like you can sense that. And I think that's probably one of the things that had the biggest impact on me. It was amazing.
I mean, I've heard from Mommy, but I've heard from the other children as well, that the values they have, and that's exactly the point you're saying, the values they have really, you know, the Jewish values, other values, whatever the case is, it's really not so much from what he preached, even though he was very capable in preaching for hours about any topic because he had such knowledge, but it was just about the atmosphere in the house and how he lived.
Yeah.
And that's such an important lesson, I think, yeah. And also not only spiritually, but also relationships, like just also the way he treated other people, the way this concept of respect for him was a very, very big thing.
Yeah.
Just respecting everyone, doesn't matter who it is. He was very clever. He knew how to, if someone came to him, he'd always give them time. If they overstayed their time, he knew how to respectfully and very nicely bring it to a close.
Yeah.
But he always Like there were certain people that needed extra strength. He would have a time to learn with them once a week, even though he was busy and he would had a lot of his own learning to do. Yeah, we give them 15, 20 minutes, whatever the case is, and he would, sorry, and he would just spend a little bit of time with them, but he knew how to bring it to a close. He was very good at that, but always respectfully and always with great humility. It was just very, yeah, amazing.
Yeah.
We miss him.
We do, and it's and we only sort of realized afterwards how many people he actually impacted, thousands and thousands.
It was unbelievable. When he passed there, it was unbelievable.
Yeah.
And people told stories, and in fact, what was amazing was that I expected when he passed away that most of the stories would be about his great Talmudic insights or his Hasidic insights and so on and so forth. And in fact, I mean, there were many of those too, of course, because that was his strength, but most of them was about how he cared for them.
Yeah.
And never put them down. He never embarrassed them, and he never was harsh for them. He was strong. A rule was a rule in yeshiva. I mean, but he was always clever. He never punished or he never this. He was always clever how he would bring out his point. He was often bringing it out very strongly, but respectfully.
Yeah.
There's a lot to learn from that.
No, for sure.
May his blessing be a memory. What should we say?
We'll just share this, sort of share some memories, and we can all learn from these things. We can all learn using our time properly, influencing the next generation in a kind, compassionate way, just being an example. Everyone with their own strength and everyone with their own thing, but I think we can all take it to heart.
Yeah, yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone, for listening.
Thank you for listening, everyone. See you next week.